Where do operators need 5G to be in terms of technologies and capabilities? And what will it take to deliver the 5G that operators actually need? And what's the strategy for their commercial 5G networks and services? And what must the 5G standards development organizations, or SDOs, the open source communities and other groups still deliver for operators this decade? Well, to find out a few answers to these questions, I'm talking today with Pedro Torres, CTO Europe Outdoor Wireless Networks at CommScope. So Pedro, thanks very much for joining us. Good to see you. Where do operators need 5G to be in terms of technologies and capabilities? What will it take to deliver the 5G that operators really need?
Well, if you look into the last 10 years or so, we see a tremendous success of mobile broadband services, which have enabled people connect on the move, and companies digitize their services, operations, and mobilize their workforce. And so while that is true, we're also seeing signs of saturation in this service, and many countries have penetration rates of more than 100%, which gives very little room for any growth on this service as we know it. So we are at a pivotal moment in 5G where we really have to realize new use cases and expand beyond the mobile connectivity, 5G mobile connectivity as we know it. And there are two key pillars in this transition. One is 5G standalone, and the other one is 5G network slicing. And we think that with these two, we should be able to have the capabilities, the scale, and the granularity needed to address all these business opportunities. So that's on the system point of view. And then for the RAN itself, what we think that what we're going to see as the next big thing will be the evolution of the midbands. So until now, we have seen operators very focused on the deployment of 700 and 3.5 bands. Now the next step will be to evolve the 1800, the 2100, and so on to the next level. Talking to operators, what they tell me is that whenever they deploy 3.5 in a given site, the existing FDD midbands see very little relief. So it's very clear for me that we're going to have to evolve these midbands very soon.
Okay, yes, great points. And of course, we're already starting to see those kind of developments in some markets. Now, obviously, as the operators address their operational and network needs, they're still working and developing their 4G networks at the same time. What are the main challenges that operators are still facing as they roll out 5G alongside their existing 4G infrastructure?
Right. So that's a very good question. So the deployment of 5G networks has been a significant civil engineering challenge for operators, especially in urban sites where massive MIMO radios are the preferred solution. And there are always site limitations in terms of space, in terms of wind load, aesthetics, and so on. And until now, operators have had very limited options other than upgrading the site infrastructure, adding more steel, or adding more poles, mats. And all this is very time consuming, it's costly, and not always possible. And when this is not possible, operators are forced to share the same pole for the active and the passive antenna. And this typically comes at the expense of reducing the length of the passive antenna, which has an impact on coverage and user experience. So to address these challenges, as you know, CommScope has developed a new passive antenna platform called Mosaic. And thanks to its unique RF properties, we can place the massive MIMO radio behind the Mosaic unit, and the RF signals from the massive MIMO radio will pass through transparently with minimum impact. And so you can see right away the benefits of this configuration. We can simplify site designs, we can standardize the site configurations, and we can also decouple the evolution of the active and the passive antennas, as well as have a smooth introduction of massive MIMO radios from Open RAN vendors if the operator decides to do so. So very excited about this, and we have received very good feedback from our customers so far on this particular product, Ray.
Okay, thanks, Pedro. Now, we've already talked about, the expansion of the potential use cases and business opportunities. looking ahead with 5G standalone and so on and so forth. But in what ways has 5G already been successful in terms of delivering for the operators? And where has it so far been found wanting?
Yeah, I think there are two, at least in my view, there are two key things, 2 points in which 5G has been successful so far. One is from a service point of view. So fixed wireless access has proven to be, based on 5G, has proven to be a very competitive solution for home broadband using the new bands that are available from 5G deployments, like 3.5 or even millimeter wave. So in areas where fiber is not available or not economically viable to deploy, well, 5G can deliver a very good broadband service at home. Now, the other aspect that I think 5G has been very successful is to gather attention from so many different industries and potential new customers into how the new technology can address their problems, how to solve the problems that they face every day in their operations, in their factories, in their business. So I think that has been very, very, interesting to see so much attention from so many different people into the 5G technology. Now, where I think we have not done, let's say, so far a great job is that although 5G non-standalone and 5G DSS have been very useful to deploy the new technology in a smooth and safe way, many people have been left disappointed with the performance of this network. So it's very clear that if we want, as an industry, to move the needle beyond the mobile broadband use case and do something different and reach out to many different industries and new customers, we'll have to move from DSS and non-standalone into something else. And that something else might be 5G network slicing and 5G standalone networks.
So looking at the situation right now, where should telcos focus their 5G activities and investments in late 2022 and beyond?
Well, I think it will be quite brave from my side to tell customers what to do. They have been running networks for many years. They know very well their business. But now you ask me, I would say 4 things. One is to be pragmatic. So don't focus all your energies into one single solution. Use all the solutions in your toolbox at your disposal for your 5G deployment. So we have seen people in the beginning focusing on 60/40, 64R as the only way to deploy 5G. Now we are seeing that people are more comfortable in using all the assets, all the tools that they have in their portfolio now in the industry for 5G deployments, from 64 to 88R. All the range of solutions are being applied now to networks. So that I think is very good. And let's say be pragmatic would be my number one advice. Number 2 is to make sure that you have a very good spectrum strategy. So you lay out a spectrum strategy combining the low bands and the mid bands and possibly the very high millimeter wave bands in the future. And this is so important because this can be the difference between a successful implementation of 5G standalone or being not so competitive in the market. So spectrum strategy, that's number 2. And then number 3, as I said, is 5G standalone. This is cornerstone for any 5G success that we want to see in the future. We really need to have 5G standalone networks. This is the real difference between 4G and what comes next in terms of serving new customers and so on. And then the final one, I think, something that we don't often talk about is to engage with the device ecosystem. So some of these use cases that we are talking about require that devices know exactly what we want to do. So as an operator, please be close to the device ecosystem, to your device vendors. Make sure they understand what you're after and your requirements in terms of how you want to bring all these services to your final customers.
Okay, excellent points, Pedro. Thank you. And now, of course, all of these developments go hand in hand with what happens with the standards and specification groups. So what must 5G through these SDOs, through the open source communities and the other industry groups and bodies still deliver for operators this decade? What does that part of the industry need to deliver?
there are a number of very interesting things here. So one is that 3GPP, of course, will continue the evolution of the technology in the different releases. So we will see new features addressing use cases based on drones, for instance, non-terrestrial networks, energy saving, positioning, and so on. So that will continue. We will see also improvements in terms of beamforming features, MIMO, etc. So 3GPP will have its own set of releases going forward, and we expect lots of improvements there. Now, parallel to 3GPP, we have the ORAN Alliance. And there, I think we have a very promising set of new use cases based on new functions like the RAN intelligent controller, for example, where the network will now expose itself to third parties, enabling new use cases, enabling innovation, enabling the possibility to have the network as a service, so that instead of being a closed ecosystem, the network can now, via APIs, via APIs, expose its capabilities to other players, so that eventually we should be able to monetize the network in a better way. So we are moving from closed ecosystems to rather open ecosystems in 5G, and even in 6G going forward, that will continue. And then I think the next also big thing will be being able to implement natively, if possible, all the AI and machine learning techniques that people are working on at the moment. That I think is going to provide significant benefits for the operators as well going forward. But that will have to be embedded in the architecture itself.
Okay, so excellent points there, Pedro. Thanks very much. And thanks very much for joining us today and giving us your insights into the evolution of the 5G sector. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Ray.